Hello everyone who's on my Facebook Live. Sorry for that technical glitch there at the beginning, but I hope that there can be some more people here that can join the call now. I saw there was a few people looking like they were trying to connect. Thanks again to everyone who's a member of this group, Functional Medicine Physio for Women. And I did want to just speak briefly about why this group was formed and even what the name is for. And my original background is as a physiotherapist, and I have worked with women's health issues for several years. Hi there, thanks for watching, Eleanor. And I did realize the more that I worked with women and talked to them about what was going on in their bodies and their health, not just maybe a specific physiotherapy concern, that there was definitely a lot more that needed to be done to help women feel like they are fully balanced in their bodies. And so I did do some training in functional medicine and through the IFM, the Institute of Functional Medicine, which is the main governing body for functional medicine. And I did learn so much about how much more could be done to balance women's bodies than what I was doing just as a physiotherapist alone. And it's not to say that there isn't a lot that can be done for women that do have physiotherapy specific issues, especially women's health related, but often they need more, or they need a combination of the two to help with full rebalancing. Because functional medicine is more about looking at all of the systems of the body and how they're interacting to either create ill wellness or optimal health. And I did find the women that were coming in and working with me, a lot of women were on that more ill continuum of not feeling well. And there was just multiple things that needed to get back into balance, not just specifically physiotherapy issues, actually help you return to full life balance for years to come. And so that's where I started to develop this practice, and I'm so happy to work with women, especially people like you that are in this group, to help you learn how to discover where your health issues are coming from, how they started in the first place, and this really is the only way for you to actually get yourself feeling better long term. If you are looking, hi Deanna, thanks for watching. If you are feeling that you are symptomatic with hormonal health issues, and you have tried some different things. Hi Tamsin, thanks for watching. It's possible that you have fallen into the trap like myself and many others before, in that you are looking for symptom management and you want yourself to just feel better, and you want to feel better right now. And so there's so many different strategies and routes you can take to try and get yourself feeling better. Hi Deanna, thanks again for watching. And often if you are having symptoms like the one I'm going to talk about today, you are looking for immediate symptom relief, and that is hormonal headaches. And this is something that I find is really, really common with females, especially in the perimenopausal and the transition into the menopausal age group. And there are several different reasons why these can start to come up in this particular age group, but it's not necessarily always specific to this age group. Hormonal headaches can come on even as young as when you're a teenager or even before you start cycling. But I do find it is more common in this age group, as well as possibly the teen group. And the reason for that is because at these particular ages in our lives as females, this is really when our hormonal systems are fluctuating a lot. Our levels, especially our estrogen and progesterone levels, testosterone to a certain degree as well. There's a lot of fluctuations. And so if we are out of balance at all in these hormonal pathways, we can start to feel more symptomatic at these key points in our life. And if you are in perimenopause, it's not just the hormonal fluctuations that you have going on in your life. You probably have a lot of other things going on in your life too. Most people in perimenopause are in go time as females in their life. There's a lot going on. You're managing probably a job typically, minus maybe some of you aren't right now because of what's going on currently in the world, but most women are usually fairly busy managing a job. Potentially you're managing a family. You might be managing aging parents. You're probably trying to also take care of yourself, hopefully in some ways, and have a social life and hopefully some physical activity and recreation so you can enjoy your life. So the gas pedal in general is always on in this age group, and that can contribute to fluctuations even more so in our sex hormones. And so even though this is part of how we live in society, typically, minus right now, which I feel like the gas pedal has been let off in some ways for a lot of women, people in general, because our society has slowed down so abruptly. So there's pros and cons to this. But in general, we usually are fairly on the go as females. And so how is this affecting our hormones, and why is this potentially contributing to headaches? Um, Thanks there for the comment, Deanna. And so what I do find happens, especially as you get into perimenopause, is there are shifts and there is a trend of dropping and declining estrogen and progesterone levels. Progesterone can decline a little faster than estrogen, but not always. It is definitely individual. And what can happen is if you are getting hormonal headaches, which would be defined as them showing up at some key times fairly consistently in your cycles, you probably are having headaches that are triggered by shifts in your hormones. And quite commonly, more so migraines, but it can also be general headaches. It's not necessarily migraines, but it can definitely be triggered by drops in estrogen levels. And the way our cycles work as females, as we are typically having more estrogen in our systems in the front half of our cycle. So it starts to rise from day 1 until close to day 14 if we are ovulating on that type of cycle, which is quite typical, although that can also fluctuate, especially in perimenopause. And then in the back half of our cycle, we should actually be more progesterone dominant. But as we get closer and closer to having our period, if we don't in fact get pregnant, what does happen close to the period is both progesterone and estrogen get very, very low. And this is often a time when the headaches start to come in, somewhere between day 21 and when we get our period. And often, if our estrogen levels are quite low, depending again on where you are at as an individual, you might actually have a headache that does persist even throughout having your period. For most people, it does start to lift by the end of your period, depending on how long it is. Although some people can get almost a rebound effect of a headache even right when their cycle ends. And then some women again will get another trigger of a headache around the time of ovulation when the body starts to shift from being more estrogen dominant in the front half to progesterone dominant. And then, yes, that's a good question. So we are going to talk about some other triggers to estrogen, especially this time of year. Histamine levels, those can be triggers for estrogen. So thanks for asking that, Deanna, and we'll definitely talk about that. But it's just good to talk about what happens with our hormones throughout the cycles, because often we do feel aware of our hormones shifting as females, but just so you have a better idea of what actually happens with estrogen levels and then progesterone levels, and then some of the typical timing of when these headaches are triggered. Hi, Kibani, thanks for watching. And so if this is you, if you feel like you potentially are getting headaches at these key times, week before your cycle comes, potentially even throughout your cycle, maybe a rebound headache post-period, noticing it again, potentially around ovulation. I mean, you might not get it at all these points. You might get it at one particular time consistently, or you may get it at all of these points, which can be quite debilitating on our life. I know I have had them before in the past, and it really just feels like it pulls the plug on your life, for a few days if you actually have it. Hi, hi, thanks for watching. And often what does come with these headaches, again, they can be migraines or they can be more tension-related headaches. There's all different types of headaches as well, even that are triggered by hormones. But often people feel brain fog, they feel like they can't focus, they feel tired, they don't feel that functional. And so it really, really affects your life. And if this is happening on a monthly basis or even at different points within the cycle of the month, it's knocking you out for different parts of your life continuously throughout the month. So this is really tough to live with. And I'm sure if this is happening to you, even on some level, you're looking for a way to come through this and make it go away. And there is ways to do this. But what I was saying there at the beginning is there really is no one particular supplement or medication that's going to just make it go away. It might make it go away short term. So hi Tamara, thanks for watching. And I know women do this, and I have done this in the past as well. You take something, maybe it's Tylenol, maybe it's ibuprofen, maybe it's a prescription from your doctor that just kills the headache, and it basically takes it away right away, or it takes it right down low, even if it's maybe still there at a low level, but you feel like you can still function. So this is a common treatment for symptom management when you have these hormonally induced headaches. But is it a solution? No. And one of the big reasons is to talk about inflammation. So what does happen when we have a headache is, for whatever reason, there's different triggers for different people. Definitely a drop in estrogen can be one of them, but it's not the only one. It does trigger inflammation in the brain, and that is what a headache is. It's inflammation that's imbalanced, and so it does come out as a symptom of a headache. But why does inflammation get imbalanced in the first place? So we really need to think about this. And then when you do take something like an Advil or a Tylenol or a prescription medication, it actually takes your inflammation all the way down almost to zero. So it completely blunts it. And from a symptom perspective, this feels good because it does make your headache go away or go down consistently. What about things like anxiety? Yes, we'll definitely talk about that as well because it is also very tied in and related, Sue. But what I wanted to say just around those medications is when we do blunt inflammation completely, what typically happens is there is a rebound effect. So our bodies and our brains are not designed to have zero inflammation in our bodies. We don't want too much, we don't want too little. We want a balance. And when we take medications that really blunt or lower inflammation significantly, our body loses that sense of where that dial should be to stay balanced. And so we often will have a rebound effect. And what does happen is we get more and more sensitized to pain. And we don't like pain. Our brains don't like pain. We want it to go away. And so you can get in a cycle of taking that often. As soon as you feel the sign of a headache, I do talk to women that say that in this group and women that I work with. As soon as I feel that headache coming on, if I take a Tylenol or I take an Advil, I nip it in the bud before it really flourishes. And so, again, this can be something that is feeling almost essential just for management and survival so that you can carry on with your day and your life. But you really have to think about what it's doing inside your body and in your chemistry and how your brain is adjusting to that. And so it will adjust basically by having zero tolerance for inflammation in the body. And so it won't make things better. Over the long term, it'll actually probably gradually make things worse because it alters your pain receptors. And so again, you have less and less tolerance for pain the more you're taking these types of things. And so it's important to think of, well, what's the other solutions? What else can I do here? You might have dehydration. Yes, for sure. And there can be some things going on with your gut and your immune system that can cause these imbalances. Yeah, thanks for adding that in, Deanna. And then I also wanted to address with Sue the anxiety at certain times of month. It's very tied in with the headaches, and this also can have to do with drops in estrogen or changes or fluctuations in estrogen, even when you shouldn't have those fluctuations, which can happen if you have hormonal imbalance. So we need to think of where the hormonal imbalances are coming from. But definitely anxiety can also be triggered more and more in perimenopause and the transition to menopause. And I work with tons of females that have this going on. I've noticed this more in myself as well as I get older and get into that perimenopausal age. That anxiety is more easily triggered. And part of this is the change and the drop in estrogen levels. But it's important to also know that there is ways that you can get this back into balance and back to the same analogy as with the headaches. It doesn't have to involve a medication or a prescription that just blunts that anxiety. And sometimes, don't get me wrong, sometimes that is needed. It really depends on where you're at on that scale of anxiety. There can be more of a generalized anxiety disorder, which does need to be managed in a very specific and particular way for each individual. But if you do notice that you are, for the most part, feeling functional, but you feel more anxious at certain times in your cycle, and they may correlate with those headaches as well, because both of them can be triggered by estrogen levels dropping and lowering. And so what's the solution for this? As females, as we enter perimenopause and towards menopause, we are going to have our estrogen levels lowering. There's just no way around it. It's just nature. It's how it works. But there are ways to support how our body is utilizing estrogen. And also with estrogen, even if we don't have a lot in our bodies, if our body is efficient at how it uses even just that small amount of estrogen that we might have left circulating and actually being produced by our ovaries, we can eliminate these symptoms. And so how does our body process estrogen properly? What are the ways? And so it's important to know how estrogen is processed. So our body makes estrogen primarily as females in our ovaries, secondarily in our adrenals, which are part of an organ that sits on top of our kidneys. But this system does kick in more postmenopausally than during perimenopause or the lead up into menopause or even the transition through menopause. So we process, break down, utilize estrogen after it's been made by our ovaries through our liver and through our gut primarily. And so if there is any imbalances in how our liver and our gut are functioning, guarantee you are going to have a problem with how your body processes and utilizes estrogen. And it can lead exactly to this symptom of headaches. And then like Sue said, it can lead to anxiety issues. There's so many different things symptom-wise that can come up as estrogen levels start to lower. Pain. Yes. Hi, Michelle. Thanks for coming in there. We also can definitely experience pain more so. So a lot of women, hysterectomy or not. So it depends on if you have a total hysterectomy or a partial. Partial means you still have your ovaries, so they're still producing estrogen as they would until you go through menopause. But a lot of women I work with as well, they do experience pain at different points in their cycle. And again, this can be related to estrogen fluctuations. As we have less estrogen in our systems, we often have more joint pain, more muscular pain, more pain in general, more sensitive to pain. And so again, what can we do about this? Back to looking more at the root cause of how our body is utilizing however much estrogen we have in our bodies, depending on where we're at in our life cycle as a female. And it's really important to know, again, back to the liver and the gut. These are our main processing centers, detoxification centers, utilization centers for estrogen. And so if they're out of balance, we are going to be more susceptible to some of these symptoms that people have been bringing up. Low libido is a common one as well, which I know a lot of women do experience as they transition into peri-menopause and menopause. But it doesn't have to be this way. Again, it has a lot to do with how our body is processing and utilizing estrogen and progesterone. And they do have to be relatively balanced for each other as well for us to not end up with these symptoms, especially headaches. Back to the reason for this Facebook Live, which is primarily to talk about headaches. But they're all very related. So again, it's to think, are we just talking about a specific symptom and a headache is a symptom? Or are we talking about the root cause, which again can be that imbalanced estrogen level, and where is it coming from? Because headaches are a symptom of that, low libido is a symptom of that, anxiety is a symptom of that, increased pain levels, they're all very, very related. And so how can the liver process estrogen properly? Our liver is basically our body's biggest detox organ. And so if for some reason we have an imbalance in how much toxins are coming into our bodies versus how much we're able to get rid of, our liver could be under pressure. And this is more common as we age, female or not. We put more and more pressure on our livers as we age because we have more buildup of toxins over time, no matter what we do, no matter what type of health practices we have. People will have less buildup if they have nice, healthy lifestyle practices, but they're still going to have some by the time you hit perimenopause and the transition into menopause. Just reading here what Sue's saying. So if I was low in estrogen and my anxiety went through the roof. Yeah. So if you're given estrogen as a supplement, again, is that really the answer? So definitely a good question. And it's exactly what I was just talking about. So women that do utilize hormone replacement therapy as a treatment to try and help them with managing those symptoms, whether it's being produced by your body or brought in either synthetically or through a bioidentical, if your processing centers aren't working properly, which would be the liver and the gut, those hormone replacement therapies are not probably going to work as well as you would hope, and they can backfire and they can actually cause more symptoms if you get a buildup in the areas where it should be getting broken down, which is again the liver and then the gut. So definitely good question, Sue. And so how do we balance this? How do we get our livers and our gut working properly, which is more of the answer to helping us with these symptoms of headaches and other symptoms that come up with these fluctuations in estrogen and progesterone as we get into perimenopause. Again, toxins, what's coming in? How much of a buildup do we have? Is this something we have control over? Yes, we do to a certain degree. We can't eliminate toxins coming into our bodies on a daily basis. It's going to happen, but we can control it. So part of it definitely would be thinking, what are you eating? What types of foods? Where are they grown? Are you eating organic, local? Are you eating non-organic, non-local? So there's sometimes a trade-off there. Ideally, you're eating local and organic. If you can't always eat organic because either it's not available or the price point is just too out of balance, definitely try your best to have local. And then just make sure that you wash, especially all of your produce, very well. You can use a little baking soda solution mixed with water, and this actually does take off any of those chemicals that potentially might be more present in the non-organic, even if they're local products. Ideally, if you know your farmers, you know where the food comes from, you're going to have a lot less toxic burden coming into your body from a food perspective. Females need to always be thinking as well of products. Where do they come from? How much are you using on a daily basis? Our skin, our hair, nails, all those things that we do as females. Where are our products coming from? How much is coming in? And do we have control over that? Can we use organic products? Can we use less of them? Can we try and really look to use natural products? Yes, we can. And so again, this isn't that instantaneous solution. It's not like taking a Tylenol, taking an Advil. We're looking to, can we start to lower the toxic burden on our bodies so that our liver can process whatever estrogen we're actually still producing in our ovaries. If you're postmenopausal, you are going to be relying more on those adrenal glands, but they are going to produce some estrogen. So you still want it to be detoxified and utilized correctly. Okay, Deanna's got another comment here. This is a slow process, but the rewards are so exponential. Yes, exactly. So, and the process doesn't necessarily have to be slow. Often women will notice changes very quickly. They're just maybe not those huge changes. So you might notice, this cycle or the last couple of months, if your cycles aren't necessarily always regular monthly, especially if you're perimenopausal, you might notice my headache is not as strong as it was last month. I don't feel like I need to reach for that Tylenol or that Advil or that medication that I typically do. I feel like I can manage. So the inflammation is maybe still higher than is optimal, but it's not so high that I have to take something to blunt it 100%. So sometimes there's subtle changes over time, but it can happen as quickly as within a cycle. I have seen more commonly once the root cause of why you're having poor processing issues with your hormones, that it takes more like 6-7 weeks. So more like a cycle and a half to 2 cycles to really start to notice the changes if you're on track with what you're doing and the root cause of why you're not processing estrogen and progesterone properly is figured out. And the solution typically, again, back to even what Sue said there, is it's typically not to give hormones. And this can be birth control, which is a common one as well. When women work with different practitioners, and they do often recommend if they are having what is deemed hormonal headaches or hormonal imbalances, they look at what is the hormone that's out of balance, which one's the lowest, and then, working with that and trying to give more hormone. And often this isn't the answer because it never really gets to the root cause of why your body's not processing and utilizing the hormones correctly in the first place. And this will persist, whether you're in perimenopause, transitioning into menopause, postmenopause. A lot of women do have headaches postmenopausally, anxiety postmenopausally, because the root cause of actually why that estrogen's not being processed and broken down properly has never been discovered. So the liver is one of those big areas, and those are some key things you can do. Other things food-wise that help the liver to detoxify and utilize estrogen in particular properly are your cruciferous vegetables. So broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, greens, bok choy. All of these things can really help the body break down estrogen so that it can be utilized correctly, especially in the liver. So if you're not already eating these foods on a daily basis, I definitely suggest that you start. And sometimes women need more than that. And sometimes they actually need supplemental support that actually helps the liver process estrogen properly if it's really out of balance. And this can be determined through some specialized lab testing. And then the other area, again, that is really, really key is the gut. So once the hormones are broken down, detoxified in the liver, there is definitely a process. Yeah, there's supplements that help our liver to work better. Definitely there is. The liver has two detoxification phases primarily, phase 1 and phase 2. Some people even would suggest there's a phase 3, but phase 1 and 2 are the main ones. So there are some certain supplements that will help support or speed up, if you will, phase 1 liver detox if needed. And likewise, there's also supplements that can speed up phase 2 liver detox. They're very specific for each person because it's really important that we know, do you have a problem with phase 1 liver detox or phase 2? So this needs to be determined on lab testing, or you can make a real mess of how you're feeling, and you can actually, again, it can backfire and you can feel worse. Sometimes, most commonly, people need support with both, and in particular phase 2 as you get closer to menopause. So I can talk about phase 2. Again, those vegetables are very, very important. Flax seeds, right amount of fiber coming in is really important as well. I find fresh ground flax seeds are really, really helpful for binding any estrogen that needs to be detoxified and eliminated. And the flax seeds can be very, very supportive of this. Supplement-wise, sometimes women do find magnesium is supportive of this as well. And this also can be something that does help women with headaches. And so if magnesium levels are low in the body, which often they are, it's really important to be thinking, can I bring it in through food? And you can always even just Google magnesium containing foods, and there's lots of them. But then do you need additional support in a supplement form? And sometimes people do. And then the other thing to think of as well is sometimes people do need support with more antioxidants. And so antioxidants are in our purple and red fruits and vegetables. So it's always important to think, where can I get it from a food source? But additionally, you can take things that actually boost your antioxidant levels in your body, things such as vitamin C, CoQ10. These are often very helpful for women, curcumin, if they're having hormonal headaches. Why? Because they're also powerful anti-inflammatories. And again, what is a headache once it actually reaches that point symptomatically in the body? It's brain inflammation. And so all of those things will help to lower systemic inflammation in the body. And so they will help with headaches. And again, it's not going to be that instantaneous one-hit wonder like a Tylenol or an Advil or some medication is going to be, but it definitely is going to give you a response. And the dose is going to be dependent usually on people's lab results and where the imbalances actually lie. So thanks for asking that question, Sue. What can we do right now? Is there some supplements? Yes, there is. Some other things to think about that are really easy to do to support detoxification, especially in the liver, is exercise, especially cardiovascular exercise that brings a sweat into our bodies. That really helps our body move and get rid of any excess estrogen, unfavorable estrogen, and it supports our estrogen being moved down the correct pathways. So exercise, super, super important. If you can't exercise for some reason, if you have an injury or you have something else that's causing imbalances in your body and feelings that you can't exercise, especially cardiovascularly, you can even just do a walk. That's something that most people can do. Or you can use a sauna. It's another great way to detox. No problem, Kivani. Thanks for watching. It's great to have you on here. So just thinking of what are some natural ways that I can actually support my liver detox pathways. And we want to try to think that way with hormonal headaches. We don't want to think of what is the symptom, what can I do to manage it. So again, those supplements are recommendations, but they're not something that I would necessarily just give to everyone. It's really important that you do the correct lab testing so that you can actually learn what's out of balance. Is it my liver? Is it my phase 1 detoxification of my liver, phase 2? Or is it potentially that in combination with gut imbalances? Because our gut microbiome, which is where we have our beneficial and non-beneficial bacteria, needs to be in balance. And if it's not, we actually can't process and utilize estrogen properly. So estrogen sometimes can recirculate and it can cause more symptoms. It can cause more toxins to build up in our bodies, and that also can trigger headaches. One sign that this might be out of balance for you is, do you ever get constipated? And if so, do you get constipated around specific times in your cycle? And if you do, you're probably not moving estrogen properly. And this can be a big trigger for headaches as well. So I hope that gives you guys some ideas as to hormonal headaches, where they can come from, what the underlying root cause is, and how the underlying root cause is similar for so many hormonal symptoms in the body, not just hormonal headaches, and how the solution is probably not what you would think. And it really does involve looking at your individual root causes in your body of where it could have come from in the first place, even if it is that low estrogen or that drop in estrogen that is actually causing the trigger. Hi, Natasha. Thanks for watching. It's not necessarily your root cause of why it's actually continuously happening. And again, the management of it is not actually something that's going to fix it long term. So hopefully this gives you guys some ideas. And, one other thing I wanted to mention actually just as a little tip for people, because I know a lot of people do drink coffee or other forms of caffeine, green tea, things like that, maybe chocolate. A lot of women crave chocolate around different times in their cycle. And there is some key minerals in here that do actually make us crave chocolate often. But caffeine is sometimes helpful for women, believe it or not, with estrogen detoxification and utilization. And sometimes coffee is really, really damaging and it doesn't help us at all. And it actually blocks our estrogen processing pathways. And this is very individualized. And to really know if this is you, you actually do have to do some specific testing. And often it's a combination of a Dutch hormone test, which a lot of you have heard me talk about already on Facebook Lives that I've had here in the past. But in combination with that, it's really important to actually check your genetics for caffeine utilization and detoxification, because some people just don't utilize it well. And if that's you, it is going to affect how you're processing estrogen, especially as you get into perimenopause, transitioning towards menopause, and the estrogen levels are fluctuating more. So it's just a tidbit of information for any of you coffee drinkers out there. And if you are having headaches, it may help, it may harm. It's really important to be looking at the specifics for you and your body. And that's the way you're going to get the solution to clearing those headaches up more long-term versus just using short-term symptom management. So yeah, this went a little over time. I just wanted to see if there's any more questions here as people. I'm just going to see if I can come down. Yeah, I think I answered most of the questions. Let's see, Deanna said, yeah, so I think I answered most of them. And yeah, so if you are having changes with your bowels, bloating, constipation, things like that, it definitely is a message to your body that your hormones aren't moving correctly, and potentially, especially estrogen, has that potential to recirculate in your body, and it can create a little bit more of an imbalance and symptoms in regards to headaches. So it's important to pay attention to not just the headache. What are the other symptoms I'm getting, and what is really the root cause? Where is this coming from? Virginia is commenting here. Hi, how about wine? Funny. So there's a few things around wine, actually, that you guys might find interesting, because females often do like to drink wine. I shouldn't say just females, males do as well. So red wine versus white wine. Red wine actually does have a few more antioxidants in it, believe it or not, just because of the color of it itself. Although I do know, again, this can come down to genetics, because some women don't tolerate red wine versus white or wine at all as they get closer to menopause. And the reason for this is it does have to be detoxified in the liver. So it really does depend on the status of your liver function overall, how well your liver genetically breaks down and detoxifies, potentially some of the lifestyle strategies or damage that might have been done to your liver over a period of time to get to where you are now. Some people do have a harder time with using any kind of alcohol, wine included, as they get into perimenopause and then a transition into menopause. I know a lot of women that do actually have to go right off of these kinds of things because they notice it affects them right away in several different ways. Headaches can definitely be one of the symptoms. So good question. If you want to know more about that, you actually can run some genetic testing, and it actually will tell you how well you do detoxify in your liver. There actually is even genetics around how you process alcohol as well. So you can get more specific for your body if you want to know about that. But in general, I would say it depends on the status of how well your liver is detoxifying as to if you're going to tolerate wine, especially in the stages of perimenopause and menopause. Hi, Kim. Thanks for watching. Yeah, and I don't know if anyone has any more questions. Again, just back to the topic of hormonal headaches. They are a real pain and they can really affect your life. And if you are finding you're managing them cycle after cycle, or if you're maybe not even having regular cycles anymore, but you're still feeling like you're managing them, it's really important to get to the root cause of why the headaches are coming. And I hope I revealed some of the potential reasons and root causes of why you could be getting these hormonal headaches. Fluctuations in our hormone levels are really common in perimenopause, but it doesn't always have to result in hormonal headaches. It is a sign that there are some other systems in the body that are potentially out of balance, could be quite out of balance, that are causing the headaches. The hormones can be the trigger, but often there's a bigger root cause behind that. So I hope that this gave you that information. And if people have more questions, you can always send me a message. You can message me through this group. You can send a private message to my business page, Angela Simpson Functional Medicine. And you also can go to my website, www.angelasimpsonfunctionalmedicine.ca. You can look at some of the information I have there, and you can also book a complimentary consult if you want to talk more about your specific individualized symptoms and how to get to the bottom of them and rebalance long term. So thanks again, everyone, and I will speak with you again soon. I am going to be having a Facebook Live later this week about the immune system and how it does contribute to hormonal imbalance and vice versa. And I will talk about some of the specifics as to what's going on with our immune health now and why it's so important that we're really managing it correctly. So take care and have a good rest of your day, everyone. And thanks to everyone who tuned in. Bye for now.